In this video, we're going to cover Intellivision emulation within the Xbox Series X and S version of Retroarch. I find the Intellivision a very fascinating system, as it is one I've never actually owned physically. All of my experience from playing Intellivision games comes through numerous compilations that have been released for the system over the years, and then just through general emulation like through Retroarch. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to get it set up on the Xbox Series X and S, so let's dive in. So to get started with Intellivision emulation on the Xbox Series X and S version of Retroarch, we need to install the Xbox Series X and S version of Retroarch. If you haven't done so already, refer back to my How to Install Retroarch guide for instructions on how to do so, and be sure to pay special attention to the expanding dev modes section, as well as the advanced setup section for accessing your Xbox's internal SSD and pointing Retroarch to look in that directory for some folders, because we're going to be using that in this video. Next, we're going to need to source some Intellivision games, and like I said, there are numerous compilations on PC that have just plain Intellivision ROM files that you could just completely copy on over. It's awesome. And once you have your Intellivision games sourced, you just need to decide if you want to store them on the Xbox's internal SSD or through a USB drive. For my demonstration purposes here, I'm going to be storing them on my USB thumb drive. I'll just copy them on over. If you want to store them on the internal SSD of your Xbox though, access your development files folder. Again, the advanced setup section of my Retroarch install guide goes over how to access this, and hopefully you've made a file share by now because it's freaking amazing. But access your development files folder, go into your Windows apps folder, Retroarch folder, games folder, and then you can drag your games right inside. The next thing we're going to need are a couple of BIOS files for the Intellivision, one named exec.bin, the other grom.bin. Certain PC compilations have these files right on the disk, and it is amazing how easy it is to get them. But once you have them sourced, go ahead and access your development files folder like I just showed. If you're already here, just go up a folder, find your system folder, and drag these two BIOS files right on in. And once you have them placed and your game's ready to go, we are ready to move on over to the Xbox. Alright, now back over on your Xbox, make sure your USB drive is in place if you are using one, and go ahead and get booted into Retroarch. And once Retroarch is booted up, you're free to begin loading into Intellivision content. So one method of doing so is to go to Load Content, navigate to the directory you have your Intellivision games stored in. So if you put them on the internal SSD, it'll be under S, Program Files, Windows Apps, Retroarch folder, Games folder, find your Intellivision games folder, select a game, choose a core, tell it to run. Or if you have your games on USB like I do, they will be under E, find your Intellivision games folder, choose a game, choose a core, tell it to run. I'm personally not a fan of this method, too much submenuing for my taste, so what I like to do instead is make a content playlist. So go down to Import Content, do a manual scan, Content Directory, navigate to where you have your games stored. So if they're on USB, they'll be under E. If they're on the internal SSD, they'll be under S. Find your Intellivision games folder, scan this directory. Now for system name, press right on your D-pad to go down to M, because we are looking for Mattel Intellivision. Now for the default core, same thing, press right on your D-pad to go down to M and find Mattel Intellivision Free Intellivision. Make sure scan recursively is set to on if you have your games separated into subfolders, and make sure scan inside archives is turned on if you have them zipped. Once these options are set, start the scan. And once the scan has completed, you will have a new Intellivision games playlist entry here on the left. And then to play a game, all you need to do is go over to it, press A on it, and tell it to run. And if everything went according to plan, you are now able to play your Intellivision games. Now, there are some things to note about the free Intellivision core. If you press the start button on your Xbox controller and press A, well, technically the B button, it will bring up a help screen here showing you the controls for Intellivision. This is important. So just remember that A is B and B is A in this controller scheme. So your main action buttons are going to be A, B, and X, and then your Y button is your last selected keypad button. This is important for games that use the number pad a lot. And after you familiarize yourself with the control layout, you can begin enjoying your Intellivision games. Now, a lot of Intellivision games did require that number pad to be used to access the game itself or choose how many players were playing at the time. And you could just press your right or left bumper on your Xbox controller to bring it up. And then you can navigate it with your D-pad and choose any of the buttons that you need. And again, with the Y button, that will automatically select the last use button that you had, making it very convenient. Now, just as a quick note, there are some games that would use different controller ports as player 1. Some games use the left controller port, some games used the right controller port. To change between these ports as needed, you only have to press the back button on your Xbox controller to swap between them. So if you start up a game and are not able to control it, just press the back button on your controller and see if that helps you out. But for the most part, free Intellivision is an awesome emulator and really makes it a lot simpler to play a number of Intellivision titles compared to previous Intellivision emulators of the day. It's not without its flaws, but for the most part you can enjoy most Intellivision games pretty easily this way, and it's awesome. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the advanced core options available within free Intellivision real quick. So going into our Retroarch quick menu and going down to options, there are none. Psych. Anyway. As I said, free Intellivision is a friggin' awesome core for what it does, and I'm just so happy we can experience Intellivision games in such an easy manner. But that's gonna do it for this one, so as always, thank you so much for watching today's tutorial. I hope it was able to help you out and get your Intellivision emulation projects on your Xbox Series X and S set up. As always, if you happen to have any questions regarding Intellivision emulation, you can ask in the comment section below and I will do my best to try to help you out. But now if you could all do me a huge favor and please be sure to hit that like or dislike button just depending on how much you like today's tutorial. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that sub button so you can see when new videos go live on the channel. Content is continuously updated, so we love having everyone along for the ride. If you'd like to further help support the channel, you can also check out that join button here on YouTube or the Patreon link in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. A little goes a long way to keeping this place up and running, and we're super grateful to everyone who has done so and believes in what we do. Y'all are amazing, thank you for being our rock stars. But that's gonna do it for this one, so until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all stay awesome, and we will see you back next video.